The gavel came down with a crack that shattered Marcus Webb's world. "Guilty," the judge said, and his 7-year-old daughter's scream pierced through the courtroom. But that wasn't today. Today, 3 weeks before that nightmare, Marcus gripped his steering wheel with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, watching a woman in an expensive coat stand helpless beside her dead car in the pouring rain. He should keep driving. He had to keep driving. One act of mercy was about to save his life in ways he couldn't imagine or destroy it completely. Now, before we dive into Marcus's story, drop a comment and tell us what city you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel across the miles. Marcus Webb's hands ached from the cold from gripping boxes all day, from the bone-deep exhaustion that came from working 2 jobs while the world called you a thief. The dashboard clock glowed 11:47 p.m., and his daughter Sophia had been asleep at Mrs. Chen's house for 3 hours now. He was late. Again. "I'm sorry, baby girl," he whispered to the empty car, even though she couldn't hear him. "Daddy's so sorry." The rain hammered down like God's judgment, and maybe that's what it was. 3 weeks. He had 3 weeks before Judge Kendall Ross decided whether he'd spend the next 5 years in prison for stealing money he never touched. 3 weeks before Sophia ended up in the system, bouncing between foster homes, learning that her father was a criminal. His attorney's words echoed in his head. "The evidence looks bad, Marcus. Really bad. We need a miracle." Miracles didn't happen to men like Marcus Webb. Not to black men accused of embezzling $47,000 from their employer. Not to single fathers working warehouse shifts and landscaping jobs who couldn't afford lawyers who actually gave a damn. The wipers scraped across the windshield, and that's when he saw them. Hazard lights. Blinking weakly through the storm like a dying heartbeat. A silver Mercedes, pulled off Riverside Drive with its hood up and steam rising into the rain. A woman stood beside it, and even from this distance, Marcus could see her shoulders shaking. Whether from cold or frustration or fear, he couldn't tell. His foot eased off the gas. "Don't," he told himself. "Don't you dare." Because this was how it always went. Wasn't it black man stops to help white woman? Cops get called. Suddenly he's not helping. He's threatening. He's not kind. He's suspicious. And with a trial 3 weeks away with Gregory Phillips already painting him as a thief and a liar, Marcus couldn't afford even the whisper of more trouble. But his mother's voice cut through the rain, and the fear, and the exhaustion. She'd been dead 5 years, but he heard her clear as day. Baby character isn't about what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when everything's falling apart, and nobody would blame you for walking away. Marcus pulled over behind the Mercedes. His car looked like a joke next to hers, a 2003 Honda with rust spots and a cracked taillight. The kind of car that said, "This man is struggling." The kind of car that made people lock their doors at stoplights. He sat there for a moment, engine running, watching her through the rain. She was on her phone, jabbing at it with increasing frustration. Professional clothes, good coat, expensive bag. The kind of woman who had AAA and credit cards and people who could help. "She doesn't need you," Marcus said aloud. "Drive away." But he was already reaching for the door handle. The rain hit him like a physical force. Within seconds, his work jacket was soaked through rain streaming down his face and neck. He raised both hands as he approached, making sure she could see them clearly in her headlights. Making sure he looked as non-threatening as a 6'2" black man could look on a dark road at midnight. "Ma'am," he called out, staying back about 15 feet. "You okay? Having car trouble?" She spun around and he watched her body go rigid. Her hand tightened on her phone. Fear flashed across her face just for a second, but long enough for Marcus to feel that familiar ache in his chest. Of course she was afraid. Strange man. Dark road. Midnight. The fact that he'd stopped to help didn't change the calculation running through her head. Yes, the car died." Her voice was controlled professional, but he heard the tremor underneath. "I've been trying to call roadside assistance, but I can't get a signal." "This stretch of road's a dead zone," Marcus said, still keeping his distance. Cell towers don't reach here. Ma'am, I'm not a mechanic, but I've kept enough old cars running to maybe help. Would it be okay if I took a look? She hesitated. He watched her eyes move from his face to his soaked jacket to his rusty Honda and back again. Calculating. Deciding. Please, she finally said. I'd appreciate that. She popped the hood, and Marcus stepped forward. Up close, he could see her more clearly. Late 40s, maybe early 50s. Sharp eyes, strong jawline, the kind of face that commanded respect without demanding it. She wore authority like a second skin, even soaking wet on a roadside in the middle of nowhere. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. I didn't mean to when you first approached. Don't apologize. Marcus was already leaning over the engine, grateful for something to focus on besides the conversation. Dark road stranger approaching. You'd be foolish not to be cautious. Still, you stopped to help. That says something. Marcus didn't respond. He was too focused on tracing wires and connections with fingers that knew machinery better than they knew rest. His father had taught him cars before the cancer took him. Marcus, baby, knowing how things work, that's power. That's dignity. Nobody can take that from you. Except they could take everything else. His reputation, his freedom, his daughter. Here's your problem, Marcus called over the rain. Battery cables come loose. Probably hit a pothole and jarred it free. The corrosion's pretty bad too. You got any tools? I don't think so. Maybe in the trunk? They checked. Nothing but emergency flares and a first aid kit. Marcus jogged back to his Honda, rain plastering his shirt to his skin. His toolbox sat in the trunk where it always did, battered metal, his father's initials still visible under layers of wear. The duct tape holding one corner together had his daughter's finger-painted flowers on it from 2 years ago when she'd thought she was decorating Daddy's things. Back at the Mercedes, he worked quickly despite the cold. His fingers traced the cable, cleaned the corrosion with an old rag, tightened the connection. The rain pounded on his back and the back of his neck, and for just a moment, he let himself focus only on this. This problem he could fix. This problem that had nothing to do with lawyers and courtrooms, and the terror in his baby girl's eyes when she asked him, "Daddy, what's prison?" "This battery's on its last legs," he said as he worked. "You should replace it soon. There's a 24-hour auto shop about 3 miles up on Henderson Street. They'll have them. You know a lot about cars." "My dad taught me," said a man who can fix things will never be completely powerless. He felt rather than saw her looking at him, really looking, like she was seeing past the soaked clothes and the rusty car and the exhaustion that probably showed in every line of his face. "That's good wisdom," she said quietly. The connection clicked into place. Marcus straightened, wiping rain from his eyes. "Try it now." She slid into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and powerful, and the relief on her face was immediate and genuine. "Oh, thank God." She turned to him, and her smile was real. "Thank you so much. What do I owe you?" Marcus was already backing toward his car, shaking his head. "Nothing, ma'am. Just glad I could help. Wait, at least, let me give you something for gas, or I don't even know your name." He stopped, and maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was because in 3 weeks none of this would matter anyway. Maybe it was because for the first time in 6 months, someone was looking at him without suspicion or judgment or pity. "Marcus," he said. "Marcus Webb." "Thank you, Marcus Webb." She stepped out of the car, rain immediately soaking her again, but she didn't seem to notice. She reached out her hand, and after a moment he shook it. Her grip was firm, confident. "You might have just saved my entire night. Don't worry about it." He interrupted gently because part of him didn't want to know. Didn't want this moment to become more complicated than it needed to be. "Get that battery replaced soon, okay? And ma'am, this stretch of road isn't safe at night. Drive careful." He was back in his Honda before she could say anything else. In his rearview mirror, he watched her standing there in the rain, watching him drive away. He never looked back to see if she made it to her car. By the time Marcus pulled into Mrs. Chen's driveway, it was 12:43 a.m. The porch light was still on. Mrs. Chen always waited up when she watched Sophia, no matter how late. She opened the door before he could knock, her weathered face creased with concern. "Marcus, you're soaked through." "Work ran late, Mrs. Chen. I'm sorry." "Sophia's asleep on the couch. I didn't want to move her." Mrs. Chen touched his arm as he passed. "How are you holding up, honey?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Nobody would be fine." She lowered her voice, even though Sophia was sleeping. "That trial, it's wrong what they're doing to you. Everyone who knows you, we know you didn't do it." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Knowing and proving are different things. "That lawyer of yours, is he any good?" "He's doing his best." Which meant no. Which meant court-appointed. Which meant Marcus couldn't afford the kind of lawyer who could fight Gregory Phillips' expensive legal team. Sophia was curled up on Mrs. Chen's floral couch, her purple jacket bunched up as a pillow. She'd insisted on wearing her good shoes today, the light-up sneakers that she loved, and one had fallen off. Marcus picked it up and tucked it under his arm, then carefully lifted his daughter. She stirred, mumbling, "Daddy." "Shh, baby girl. I got you." "You're wet." "I know. It's raining. Go back to sleep." She burrowed into his chest and Marcus felt his heart crack a little wider. How much longer would he get to hold her like this? How many more bedtimes before a courtroom took this away? At home, their small two-bedroom apartment that smelled like the lavender air freshener, Sophia insisted made it fancy. Marcus tucked his daughter into bed. She'd painted a picture today at Mrs. Chen's house. It was taped to the wall beside her bed. A stick figure man holding hands with a smaller stick figure with long black hair. The man was smiling. The sun was yellow and took up a quarter of the page. "Love you, Daddy." Sophia mumbled, already half asleep. "Love you too, baby. More than anything." In his own room, Marcus peeled off his wet clothes and stood under the shower until the water ran cold. But he couldn't wash away the feeling, that sense that something had shifted tonight. That the woman on the road had been important somehow. "You're losing it," he told his reflection. "Making up miracles because you're desperate." But as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain that wouldn't stop, Marcus couldn't shake the image of her face, those sharp, intelligent eyes, that air of authority. Who was she? It didn't matter. In 3 weeks, Judge Kendall Ross would bang her gavel and Marcus's life would be over. One more man swallowed by a system that didn't care if he was innocent. One more little girl without her father. One more example of how character and kindness didn't count for anything when you were born the wrong color with the wrong bank account. He finally fell asleep at 3 a.m., never knowing that the woman he'd helped in the rain was about to become the most important person in his life. The thing about justice is that it's supposed to be blind. But sometimes in the dark blind, justice stumbles right into the person who can make it see again. 3 weeks. Marcus had 3 weeks left of freedom. 3 weeks left of tucking his daughter into bed. 3 weeks left of being anything other than inmate number 847392. He didn't know that the countdown had just been interrupted. Didn't know that mercy given in the rain was about to echo back in ways he couldn't imagine. All he knew was that tomorrow he'd wake up, go to work, pretend everything was fine, and pray for a miracle that wouldn't come. He was wrong about that last part. But he wouldn't know it until he walked into Hartford County Courthouse and saw her face behind the bench. The 3 weeks that followed moved like a slow-motion car crash. Marcus kept working, kept breathing, kept pretending that the world wasn't about to end. But every morning when he looked in the mirror, he saw a man drowning in slow motion. "Daddy, you didn't eat your cereal," Sophia said one morning, her spoon halfway to her mouth. "You always tell me breakfast is important." Marcus looked down at his bowl. The cereal had gone soggy 20 minutes ago. He couldn't remember pouring it. "You're right, baby. I'm sorry. Just thinking about work." "Is it the bad man, The one who lied about you? Marcus's chest tightened. Sophia, we don't. Mrs. Chen told me. She said Mr. Gregory is a liar and that liars get what's coming to them. Sophia's 7-year-old face was so serious, so much older than it should be. Is that true? Daddy, do liars get what's coming? I hope so, baby girl. I really hope so. But hoping felt like spitting into a hurricane. Gregory Phillips had money connections lawyers who billed $500 an hour. He had doctored financial records that made Marcus look guilty as hell. Bank transfers with Marcus's forged signature. Email trails that seemed to prove he'd been siphoning money for months. Fake vendor accounts that traced back to an offshore account Gregory had somehow linked to Marcus's name. The worst part was how good Gregory was at playing the victim. He'd stood in the police station 6 months ago, his face the perfect picture of shocked betrayal, and said, Marcus was like a brother to me. I trusted him completely. I can't believe he'd do this to our company. Marcus had been arrested at work. In front of his co-workers, in front of the manager who'd always praised his reliability. The humiliation had been worse than the handcuffs. His court-appointed attorney Robert Flores was doing his best. Marcus believed that. Mr. Flores had kind eyes and a genuine smile, and he actually seemed to care. But caring didn't win cases against prosecutors who saw conviction rates as career advancement. Marcus, I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Flores had said during their last meeting, his hands folded on the cheap desk between them. The evidence looks bad. The judge already denied our motion for forensic examination of the digital records. She said it was too expensive and not warranted given the existing evidence. She didn't even look at them. Marcus had said, his voice hollow. She just denied it. Judge Morrison has a heavy caseload. She's known for moving cases quickly. Mr. Flores had looked uncomfortable. The thing is, with a different judge, maybe we'd have had a chance for a more thorough review. But Morrison, when's the trial? 3 weeks. November 15th. The case got transferred to a different judge for the actual trial since Morrison's on vacation. Judge Kendall Ross. I don't know much about her except she's relatively new to criminal cases. Transferred from family court about 8 months ago. Marcus had barely heard the name. It didn't matter who the judge was. The outcome was already written. Now, with less than a week to go, Marcus moved through life like a ghost. He worked his warehouse shift, his body on autopilot, while his mind spiraled through worst-case scenarios. 5 years. Sophia would be 12 when he got out. Would she even remember him? Would she visit, or would whatever foster family she ended up with convince her that her father was a criminal who deserved to be forgotten? Webb. You okay? His supervisor. Danny touched his shoulder, and Marcus flinched. Sorry, man, I'm fine. You dropped that box 3 times, and it's just packing peanuts. What's going on? Marcus couldn't answer. The trial was in 5 days. 4 days. 3 days. The night before the trial, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat in Sophia's room watching her breathe, memorizing the way her hair spread across her pillow, the way her hand curled under her chin. She'd painted her nails with Mrs. Chen yesterday, a glittery purple that she'd insisted made her look sophisticated. If something happens, he whispered, even though she was asleep. If Daddy has to go away for a while, I need you to know it's not because I don't love you. It's not because I did anything wrong. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, and we just have to be strong. Can you be strong for me, baby girl? Sophia stirred, mumbling something about unicorns, and rolled over. Marcus pressed his hands to his face and tried not to cry. He'd been strong for 6 months. Strong through the arrest, strong through the accusations, strong through watching his reputation dissolve like sugar in water. But sitting in his daughter's room at 2 a.m., staring down the barrel of 5 years in prison, he didn't feel strong. He felt like he was falling apart at the seams. His phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Flores. Get some rest if you can. We'll meet at the courthouse at 8:30. Wear the suit I gave you. Remember, stay calm, don't react, no matter what they say. We've got this. But they didn't have this. They both knew it. Marcus stood in front of his bathroom mirror at 6 a.m., trying to knot a tie with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The suit Mr. Flores had loaned him was too big in the shoulders, too short in the legs. He looked like a kid playing dress-up. He looked like exactly the kind of man a jury would convict without thinking twice. "Daddy, you look fancy." Sophia stood in the doorway, still in her pajamas, her hair a wild tangle around her face. "Thanks, baby." Is today the court day? The day the magic hammer lady decides? Marcus had tried to explain the trial in terms a 7-year-old could understand. He'd told her about judges and courtrooms, and how sometimes people had to prove they were telling the truth. Sophia had latched onto the gavel, the magic hammer, and decided that judges were basically superheroes who made bad people go away. "Yeah, baby, today's the day." Mrs. Chen says judges are fair, says they help good people. Sophia walked over and hugged his leg. "So you're gonna be fine, Daddy, because you're a good person." Marcus knelt down and pulled her into a real hug, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. "I love you so much, Sophia, more than anything in the whole world." "I know, Daddy. You tell me every day." She pulled back and looked at him seriously. "Can I come to court? I want to see the magic hammer." "No, baby. Kids can't be in the courtroom. You're going to stay with Mrs. Chen, and when I come home tonight, we'll get ice cream. Okay. Promise." Marcus couldn't promise, but he said it anyway. Promise. Hartford County Courthouse loomed like a judgment in brick and concrete. Marcus stood on the steps at 8:15, watching lawyers and clerks and criminals and victims flow through the doors. His legs felt like water. "Marcus!" Mr. Flores jogged up the steps, briefcase in hand, his own suit much better fitting than Marcus's borrowed one. "Good, you're early. How are you feeling?" "Like I'm gonna throw up." "That's normal. Listen, I got the trial assignment this morning. We're with Judge Ross in courtroom 3B. She's the one I told you about, transferred from family court. I've asked around. People say she's fair thorough. That's good for us." "Is it?" Mr. Flores's optimism faltered. "Marcus, I know this is scary, but I genuinely believe you're innocent, and I'm going to fight like hell for you in there." "What if fighting isn't enough?" "Then we appeal, and we keep fighting. But let's take this one step at a time. Come on, we need to get to the courtroom." The hallways smelled like floor polish and anxiety. Marcus followed Mr. Flores through security, through corridors that all looked the same, past courtrooms where other people's lives were being decided. They reached courtroom 3B at 8:42. Gregory Phillips was already there. He sat at the prosecution's table with his lawyer, a sharp-faced woman in a suit that probably cost more than Marcus's car. Gregory looked up when Marcus entered, and their eyes met. For just a second, Marcus saw something flicker across Gregory's face. Guilt, fear. But then it was gone, replaced by a mask of righteous anger. "That's him," Gregory said loudly to his lawyer. "That's the man who stole from me, who betrayed my trust." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Mr. Flores touched his arm. "Don't react. That's what he wants." They took their seats at the defense table. Marcus's heart hammered so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. The courtroom filled slowly. A bailiff, a court reporter, prosecutors, more lawyers. People Marcus didn't know who held his fate in their hands. At 8:58, the bailiff stood. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Kendall Ross." Marcus stood on legs that barely held him, his eyes fixed on the floor. He couldn't look up, couldn't bear to see the face of the person who would decide whether he ever held his daughter again. But then, footsteps, the rustle of robes, and something made him glance up. Some instinct, some impossible hope. The judge entered from the side door, black robes flowing, her posture commanding. She took her seat behind the bench, settling in with practiced efficiency. And Marcus's entire world tilted sideways. No, it couldn't be. His breath caught in his throat. His vision narrowed. The woman behind the bench, the woman holding the gavel that would decide his fate, was her. The sharp eyes, the strong jawline, the air of authority that he'd seen even soaking wet on a dark roadside. The woman from the rain. Marcus's hands gripped the edge of the table. His heart stopped, then started again too fast. Was he imagining this? The lighting was different, harsh fluorescent instead of darkness and rain. She wore formal robes instead of a soaked coat. Her hair was pulled back severely instead of hanging wet around her face. But those eyes, that face, the way she held herself, it was her. He was almost certain. Almost. Mr. Flores was shuffling papers beside him, completely unaware that Marcus's entire understanding of the universe had just shattered. The Judge Ross, the bailiff had said, was looking down at a file, her expression neutral and professional. If she recognized him, she gave no sign. Not a flicker. Not a hint. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe his desperate mind was seeing connections that didn't exist. Maybe he wanted so badly to believe in miracles that he was inventing them. The proceedings began. The prosecutor stood, starting her opening statement. Something about embezzlement and betrayal of trust and clear evidence. Marcus heard the words like they were underwater. His eyes kept drifting to the judge. It looked like her. It really looked like her. But how could it be? What were the odds? In a county of 900,000 people, what were the chances that the stranger he'd helped 3 weeks ago was now sitting behind that bench? Mr. Webb, Marcus. Mr. Flores was whispering urgently. Are you okay? You look like you're about to pass out. I'm fine, Marcus whispered back, but he wasn't fine. His mind was spinning. Should he say something? Should he tell Mr. Flores? But what would he say? I think I fixed that judge's car 3 weeks ago. It sounded insane. Judge Ross was speaking now, her voice clear and authoritative. Mr. Davis, I've reviewed the evidence packet submitted by the prosecution. I have some questions. The prosecutor, Mr. Davis, stood. Of course, Your Honor. These financial documents, the bank transfers, the email trails, these are all photocopies. Yes, Your Honor. Standard procedure for evidence submission. Where are the originals? Mr. Davis hesitated. The originals are being held by the company's accounting firm. We submitted copies to avoid any loss of the original documents. Judge Ross leaned forward, and Marcus watched her eyes sharpen. It was the same look she'd had when she'd been studying her car engine, trying to understand what was wrong. Focused, intelligent, unwilling to accept easy answers. Mr. Davis, these aren't just copies. These are photocopies of photocopies. The resolution is degraded. The metadata is missing. How am I supposed to authenticate these? Your Honor, Judge Morrison already reviewed. Judge Morrison denied the defense's motion for forensic examination. I'm not Judge Morrison. Her voice was firm, brooking no argument. Mr. Flores, you filed a motion for forensic examination of the digital banking records. Correct. Mr. Flores stood, surprise evident on his face. Yes, Your Honor. 6 weeks ago. It was denied. I'm undenying it. Judge Ross turned back to the prosecutor. Mr. Davis, this court will not proceed on the basis of photocopies. I'm granting the defense's motion. We're going to have forensic accountants examine the original digital records. This trial is postponed until that examination is complete. The courtroom erupted. Mr. Davis was objecting. Mr. Flores was trying to hide his shock. Gregory Phillips was standing, his face red, shouting something about delays in justice. And Judge Ross banged her gavel once. The sound cracked through the chaos like a gunshot. Mr. Phillips, sit down. Outbursts in my courtroom will result in contempt charges. She waited until Gregory slowly sank back into his seat, his lawyer pulling at his arm. This examination will be completed within 2 weeks. We will reconvene on November 29th at 9 a.m. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down again, and she stood gathering her files with the same efficiency she'd shown throughout. Marcus watched his heart in his throat as she exited through the side door without once looking at him directly. But just before she disappeared, just for a fraction of a second, their eyes met. And Marcus knew. She recognized him. She knew exactly who he was. And she'd just saved him. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Mr. Flores grabbed Marcus's arm, his eyes wide. Did that just happen? Did a judge actually grant our forensic examination motion on the first day of trial? I think so. Marcus, this is huge. I've never seen anything like this. Judges don't just overturn previous rulings like that. Not without significant cause. But she's right, those documents were terrible quality. If we can get forensic accountants to examine the actual digital records, we might be able to prove they were tampered with. How long will that take? She said 2 weeks. That's fast for forensic accounting. But if she's ordering it, they'll prioritize it. Mr. Flores was grinning now, really grinning. Marcus, I think we might actually have a chance. Behind them, Gregory Phillips stormed past with his lawyer not even glancing at Marcus. But Marcus saw the tension in Gregory's shoulders, the way his hands were clenched. For the first time in 6 months, Gregory looked worried. Maybe because for the first time, someone was actually questioning his evidence. Marcus made it home at 11 a.m. Mrs. Chen had Sophia at the park, so the apartment was empty. He stood in the living room still wearing Mr. Flores' suit and tried to process what had just happened. The judge was the woman from the rain. He was almost certain now. Not just from her face, but from the way she'd looked at those documents. That same focused intelligence she'd shown studying her broken car. That same unwillingness to accept surface explanations. She'd recognized him. That momentary eye contact before she'd left the courtroom had confirmed it. But she'd given no sign, shown no acknowledgement. Kept her face perfectly neutral and professional. Why, Marcus pulled out his phone and searched Judge Kendall Ross, Hartford County. A dozen results came up. Professional photos, news articles about cases she'd presided over, a brief biography. Judge Ross transferred to criminal court after 8 years in family court, known for thorough examination of evidence and fair application of law. He clicked on images. And there she was. Professional headshots. Photos from legal conferences. And in one photo, standing beside a silver Mercedes at some courthouse event. A silver Mercedes. Marcus sat down hard on his couch. It was her. Definitely her. The woman he'd helped 3 weeks ago was now the judge presiding over his case. And she'd just done something remarkable. She'd questioned evidence that another judge had accepted. She'd granted a motion that had already been denied. She'd given him something he hadn't had in 6 months, a chance. But at what cost to her, if anyone found out she knew him, that they'd had contact before the trial, she'd have to recuse herself. The case would go to another judge. And based on what Mr. Flores had said about Judge Patterson, the likely replacement, Marcus would be convicted within a week. So she was hiding it, pretending not to know him, risking her career and her reputation to give him a fair shake. The door opened. Sophia burst in, her cheeks red from the cold, Mrs. Chen following behind. Daddy, you're home. Mrs. Chen said you'd be at court all day. Did the magic hammer lady use her magic hammer? Are you free? Marcus caught his daughter as she launched herself at him. Not yet, baby girl, but soon. The judge is going to look at more evidence. See, I told you judges were fair. Sophia pulled back and looked at him seriously. She's a good judge, right? She's going to help you. Marcus thought about those sharp eyes. That moment of recognition. The way she'd challenged the prosecutor without hesitation. Yeah, baby. I think she's a very good judge. The 2 weeks that followed were the strangest of Marcus's life. He went to work, came home, took care of Sophia, and tried not to think about the woman behind the bench who held his fate in her hands. But he thought about her constantly. Had she remembered him immediately when she saw his name on the case file? Or had it been a shock when he'd walked into the courtroom? Did she struggle with the decision to hide their connection? Or had she known instantly what she had to do? And most importantly, was she doing this because of that night in the rain, or because she was simply a good judge who'd seen bad evidence? Marcus wanted to believe it was the latter. Wanted to believe that justice was working the way it was supposed to. But deep down, he knew. She'd helped him once before, and now she was helping him again. On day 9 of the wait, Marcus's phone rang. Mr. Flores. His voice was shaking. Marcus, the forensic report came in. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. And Gregory fabricated everything. Everything. The forensic accountants traced the actual digital records. The timestamps were altered. The emails were forged. The bank transfers were made from Gregory's home computer and then doctored to look like they came from you. Marcus, you're innocent. We can prove it. Marcus's legs gave out. He sat down hard on a stack of boxes in the warehouse break room. Are you sure? I'm looking at a 47-page report that takes apart Gregory's entire case piece by piece. The metadata doesn't lie, Marcus. He set you up, and now we have proof. What happens now? We go back to court tomorrow. Judge Ross ordered an emergency hearing as soon as the report came in. Marcus, this is it. This is over. That night, Marcus barely slept. He kept thinking about tomorrow. About walking into that courtroom and hearing the words he'd dreamed about for 6 months. You're free. But more than that, he thought about her. About Judge Kendall Ross, who'd seen him at his lowest moment and chosen to help. Who'd risked everything to make sure justice was actually done. He wanted to thank her. Needed to thank her. But how could he? How could he approach a judge and acknowledge that they'd met before when that acknowledgement could destroy everything she'd risked? At 7 a.m., Marcus stood in front of his mirror again, the same borrowed suit. But this time, his hands weren't shaking. This time, he looked like a man walking toward freedom instead of away from it. Is today the day, Daddy? Sophia asked, appearing in his doorway with her stuffed rabbit. Yeah, baby. Today's the day. Are you scared? Marcus knelt down and pulled her close. Not anymore. Not with you believing in me. I always believed in you, Daddy. Always, always, always. The courtroom was packed. News of the forensic report had leaked somehow, and journalists filled the back rows. Gregory sat at his table, his face pale, his expensive lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. Marcus took his seat beside Mr. Flores. His heart was racing, but it was different now. Not fear. Anticipation. All rise for the Honorable Judge Kendall Ross. Marcus stood. And this time when she entered, he looked directly at her. Their eyes met for just a fraction of a second. And in that moment, he saw everything he needed to see. She'd known. From the very beginning, she'd known who he was. And she'd fought for him anyway. Judge Ross took her seat, her expression grave and professional. We're here regarding case number 2024 CR 8847, the State versus Marcus Webb. I've reviewed the forensic accounting report submitted yesterday. Mr. Davis, I assume you've reviewed it as well. The prosecutor stood slowly. Yes, Your Honor. And does the state wish to proceed with prosecution? A long pause. Then, no, Your Honor. In light of the forensic evidence, the state is dropping all charges against Mr. Webb. The courtroom erupted. Marcus heard the words, but they didn't seem real. Mr. Flores was grabbing his arm, shaking him, saying something, but Marcus couldn't hear over the roaring in his ears. Judge Ross banged her gavel. Order. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office with a recommendation that charges be filed against Gregory Phillips for fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and obstruction of justice. Mr. Webb, you're free to go. This case is dismissed with prejudice. The gavel came down with finality. Free. He was free. Marcus looked up at the bench, and Judge Ross was looking directly at him now. Just for a moment. Just long enough for him to see the satisfaction in her eyes. The justice of it. Then she gathered her files and stood. Court is adjourned. She disappeared through the side door before Marcus could even think of what to say. In the hallway, Mr. Flores was crying. Actually crying. "We did it, Marcus. You're free. You're actually free." Marcus was crying too. Great shaking sobs that he couldn't control. 6 months of fear and anxiety and terror all pouring out in one massive wave of relief. His phone rang. Mrs. Chen. "Marcus, is it over? Is it done?" "It's done. I'm coming home. Tell Sophia I'm coming home and we're getting that ice cream." "Oh, thank God. Thank God. She's been asking every 5 minutes. I'll tell her. Marcus, I'm so happy for you." Marcus walked out of the courthouse into bright November sunlight. The world looked different, sharper, more real, like he'd been living in gray and suddenly everything was in color. He was free. His daughter would grow up with her father. Gregory Phillips would face justice. The nightmare was over. But as Marcus stood on those courthouse steps, breathing in air that tasted like redemption, he couldn't stop thinking about the woman behind the bench. She'd saved him twice now, once in the rain with a broken car, once in a courtroom with a broken justice system, and he'd never even properly thanked her. Somehow, some way he needed to find her, needed to tell her what her courage had meant, what her faith in him had saved. But for now, he had a 7-year-old girl waiting for ice cream. And for the first time in 6 months, Marcus Webb smiled like he meant it. The ice cream melted faster than Sophia could eat it. Chocolate dripped down her chin and onto her favorite purple shirt. But she didn't care. Neither did Marcus. They sat in the tiny booth at Sweet Dreams Parlor, and for the first time in 6 months, Marcus felt like he could breathe without his chest caving in. "Daddy, you're not eating yours," Sophia said, her spoon scraping the bottom of her bowl. "Can I have it?" "Go ahead, baby girl." She pulled his untouched sundae toward her, grinning with chocolate-stained teeth. "This is the best day ever. Well, except my birthday, and Christmas. And that time we went to the zoo and I got to feed the goats. But this is in the top 5 for sure." Marcus watched his daughter demolish her second ice cream, and something in his chest loosened. She'd been so scared these past months, even when she tried to hide it. He'd catch her staring at him sometimes with those big dark eyes, like she was memorizing his face in case he disappeared. But now, she was just a kid again. Sticky and happy and worried about nothing more serious than whether sprinkles counted as a vegetable. "Sophia, I need to tell you something." She looked up suddenly serious. "What?" "The bad stuff is over. All of it. The court thing, the worrying everything. We're going to be okay now." "I know, Daddy. The magic hammer lady fixed it." Sophia returned to her ice cream like this was the most obvious thing in the world. "Mrs. Chen said good people always win eventually. It just takes longer sometimes." If only it were that simple. If only goodness automatically won. But Marcus had learned that goodness needed help sometimes, needed someone brave enough to fight for it. His phone buzzed. A text from Danny at the warehouse. "Heard the news. Whole crew is celebrating. You coming in tomorrow?" Marcus texted back. "Yeah, got bills to pay." Because that was the thing about freedom, it didn't come with a paycheck. He was cleared, but he'd lost 6 months of work at Gregory's landscaping company. Lost his reputation in an industry where everyone knew everyone. Lost the small savings he'd built up, paying for things like emergency babysitters and bus fare when his car broke down. Freedom felt amazing. But it also felt terrifyingly uncertain. "Daddy, you got that look again," Sophia said, studying him with ice cream on her nose. The thinking too hard look. "Sorry, baby. Just planning." "Planning what?" "Planning how we're going to make everything normal again." Sophia reached across the table and patted his hand with her sticky fingers. "Daddy, we are normal. We're the normalist." Marcus laughed, really laughed, for what felt like the first time in forever. "That's not a word." "It should be." Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus tried to build normal back into their lives. He picked up extra shifts at the warehouse, started sending out applications to other landscaping companies, even though he knew his name was mud in that world. Tried not to think about the woman behind the bench who'd changed everything. But he thought about her anyway, constantly. Judge Kendall Ross had risked her entire career for him. She'd seen his case, recognized his name, and instead of recusing herself like ethics demanded, she'd stayed. She'd fought. She'd questioned evidence that another judge had accepted without a second thought. Marcus had researched judicial ethics. He'd spent hours reading articles about recusal requirements about what happened when judges had conflicts of interest. The penalties were severe. Disbarment, career destruction, public humiliation. She'd known all of that, and she'd done it anyway. Why Marcus couldn't let go of that question? Was it guilt? Some sense that she owed him for helping her that night? Or was it something deeper, a bone-deep commitment to justice that superseded rules written by people who'd never had to choose between following procedure and doing what was right? He wanted to ask her, needed to thank her. But how? The answer came on a random Tuesday afternoon when Marcus was stocking shelves in the hardware section of Myers' hardware store. He'd taken the job 2 weeks ago, better pay than the warehouse, better hours, benefits that actually meant something. The manager, an older woman named Patricia, had looked at his application and said, "I followed your case. What happened to you was wrong. You want the job, it's yours." Marcus had nearly cried right there in her office. Now he was arranging socket wrenches by size, when he heard a voice behind him say, "Excuse me, do you know where I might find battery terminals?" He turned around, and there she was. Not in judge's robes, not behind a bench with a gavel. Just a woman in jeans and a sweater, her hair down, holding a basket with motor oil and windshield wipers. Looking at him with something in her eyes that might have been amusement, or nervousness, or both. Marcus's throat went dry. "It's you." "It's me," Kendall Ross said quietly. "Hello, Marcus." The socket wrench slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. Neither of them moved to pick it up. "You knew," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "In the courtroom. The whole time. You knew it was me. From the moment I saw your case file photo, I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered all over my office floor. But you didn't say anything. You didn't recuse yourself. If I'd recused myself, your case would have gone to Judge Patterson. He has a 94% conviction rate and no patience for public defenders." Kendall's voice was steady, but Marcus could see tension in her shoulders. "You would have been convicted in a week, maybe less. So you risked everything. Your career, your reputation. I risked my position. You would have risked your daughter." Kendall took a step closer, and Marcus caught a hint of her perfume, something light and professional. "Those aren't equivalent scales, Marcus. What I did was the bare minimum that justice demanded." "The bare minimum?" Marcus heard his voice rising and forced it down. They were in a hardware store, for God's sake. Other customers were browsing nearby. "You broke every ethical rule in the book. You could lose your license to practice law. You could be disbarred." "I could be," Kendall agreed. "If anyone found out, which is why I'm here shopping for car batteries like a normal person instead of showing up at your door. Although I did have to ask 3 people where you worked." Mrs. Chen was very protective. She wouldn't tell me until I explained who I was. Despite everything, Marcus felt himself smile. Mrs. Chen doesn't trust easily. She shouldn't. She's protecting something precious. Kendall's expression softened. "How is Sophia? I saw her picture in your case file. She drew me something during the trial. Gave it to the bailiff. The judge with the superhero cape. And the magic hammer. She told him I had the power to make bad people go away." Kendall's smile was genuine, now warm. "I kept it. It's on my refrigerator at home." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. didn't know how to process the image of this powerful woman, this judge who'd held his fate in her hands, hanging his daughter's crayon drawing on her fridge. Why? The question came out rough. Why did you do it? Really? Kendall was quiet for a moment. Somewhere in the store, a loudspeaker announced a sale on power drills. A kid was crying in the plumbing section. Normal sounds. Normal life. But nothing about this moment felt normal. That night, Kendall finally said, "When you stopped to help me, I'd been having the worst day of my career. I'd spent 8 hours in family court dealing with a custody case that I couldn't fix no matter what I ruled. A mother who loved her kids but couldn't stop drinking. A father who was sober but had a temper. And those kids," her voice caught, "those kids were going to suffer no matter what I decided." Marcus stayed silent, letting her talk. "I was driving home, and I just wanted to get there. Wanted to pour a glass of wine and pretend for one night that the decisions I made didn't destroy lives. And then my car died." Kendall looked directly at him now. "You had every reason to keep driving. You were exhausted. You were facing trial in 3 weeks. You probably assumed I had money insurance people who could help. But you stopped anyway." "Anyone would have—" "No," Kendall interrupted firmly. "No, they wouldn't have. I stood there for 20 minutes before you came along. 6 cars passed me. 6. And every one of them slowed down, looked at me and kept going. But you stopped. You got soaked helping a stranger. You refused payment, even though I could see your car was barely holding together. And when you told me your name, there was something in your eyes. Dignity, character. The kind of goodness that doesn't ask for recognition." She reached up and brushed her hair back, a nervous gesture that made her seem suddenly more human, less like the authority figure she'd been in court. "So, when I saw your name on that case file," she continued, "when I realized you were facing prison for embezzlement, I had 2 choices. Follow protocol and recuse myself, or actually look at the evidence." And Marcus, the evidence was garbage. Photocopies of photocopies. Degraded metadata. Documents that any competent judge should have questioned. But Judge Morrison didn't question them because she was overworked and understaffed, and Gregory Phillips's lawyer was expensive and persuasive. "So you stayed on the case?" "I stayed because I couldn't watch an innocent man go to prison when I had the power to stop it. I stayed because that night in the rain, you showed me that goodness still exists in this world. Real, uncomplicated goodness. And I wanted to show you that justice could exist too." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. He blinked them back hard. "You saved my life. Saved my daughter from losing her father." "You helped me first," Kendall said softly, "when you had every reason not to." They stood there in the hardware store between the socket wrenches and the battery terminals, and something shifted. Some wall came down. Marcus had spent weeks thinking of Judge Kendall Ross as this untouchable figure of authority. But standing here in jeans with motor oil in her basket, she was just Kendall. Just a woman who'd made an impossible choice and lived with the consequences. "I don't know how to thank you," Marcus said. "You don't need to thank me. I was doing my job, just actually doing it instead of going through the motions." "Can I buy you coffee?" The words came out before Marcus could stop them. "I mean, if that's allowed. Now that the case is over. If it's not weird or—" "It's allowed," Kendall said, and her smile reached her eyes. "In fact, I'd really like that. I'd really like that a lot." They ended up at a small cafe 3 blocks away, the kind of place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Marcus ordered black coffee. Kendall ordered something complicated with oat milk and an extra shot. They sat by the window, and for a few minutes neither of them spoke. "This is strange," Marcus finally said. "Very strange. I've never had coffee with a judge before. I've never had coffee with someone whose life I completely upended." Kendall wrapped her hands around her mug. "How are you doing?" "Really?" Marcus considered lying, saying everything was fine, but something about the way she asked made him tell the truth. "I'm terrified," he admitted. I'm free, and I'm so grateful for that. But Gregory destroyed my reputation. I can't get work in landscaping anymore. Everyone in the industry knows everyone, and they all heard I was accused of embezzlement. It doesn't matter that I was cleared, the accusation stuck. That's not fair? No, it's not. But it's reality. Marcus took a sip of coffee. It was too hot and burned his tongue. The hardware store job is good. Patricia took a chance on me. But it doesn't pay enough to cover our rent and Sophia's after-school program and everything else. I'm making it work, but just barely. What about suing Gregory civil court? Mr. Flores mentioned that. But lawyers cost money I don't have, and even if I won, Gregory's business is underwater now. He's facing criminal charges. There's nothing to get from him. Marcus set down his mug. I'm not telling you this to complain. I'm free. That's what matters. Everything else I'll figure out. Kendall was quiet for a moment, studying him with those sharp eyes. You're remarkably resilient. I don't have a choice. I have a daughter depending on me. Still, a lot of men would be bitter, angry at the system. Oh, I'm angry, Marcus said, and there was heat in his voice now. I'm furious. 6 months of my life gone. 6 months of Sophia asking me every night if I was going to prison. 6 months of everyone looking at me like I was a criminal. And the worst part is that if you hadn't been assigned to my case, I'd be in prison right now. Actually, in prison, for something I didn't do. His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat on the table. So, yeah, I'm angry at the system. He continued, forcing his voice steady. But I'm not angry at you. You're the only part of the system that actually worked. Kendall reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. Just for a moment. Just long enough for Marcus to feel the warmth of it. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry the system failed you so badly that one judge following her conscience feels like a miracle. It was a miracle. To me it was. They talked for 2 hours. About Sophia's love of purple and glitter and her absolute certainty that unicorns were real, they just hid really well. About Kendall's transfer from family court to criminal court and how different it was to deal with clear guilt and innocence instead of messy custody battles where everyone lost something. About Marcus's father and his mother and Kendall's parents who died in a car accident when she was 23. I think that's why I became a judge, Kendall said, stirring her third coffee. After they died, I saw how the legal system handled their estate, how impersonal it was, how the people making decisions about our family had never met us, didn't care about us. Just files and procedures and, according to statute. I wanted to be different. Wanted to remember that every case was someone's life. You are different, Marcus said. You proved that. When they finally left the cafe, the sun was setting. Marcus walked Kendall to her car, still the silver Mercedes, but with a new battery now. Thank you, she said, unlocking the door. For the coffee. And for the conversation. I haven't talked like that in a long time. Me neither. She hesitated, one hand on the door. Marcus, can I ask you something? Anything. That night, when you stopped to help me, what were you thinking about? Before you saw my car, Marcus remembered. The rain, the exhaustion, the trial circled in red on their kitchen calendar. I was thinking about Sophia, he said honestly. About how much longer I'd get to tuck her in at night. About whether she'd remember me if I went to prison. Kendall's eyes glistened. And you still stopped. My mother always said character is what you do when everything's falling apart. Marcus smiled, but it was tight. Everything was falling apart. But I couldn't leave someone stranded. Couldn't drive past and live with myself. Your mother raised you right. She tried. Kendall got into her car, then rolled down the window. Can we do this again, coffee, I mean? If you want to, no pressure. Marcus felt something in his chest. Something that might have been hope or fear or the beginning of something he hadn't expected. I'd like that, he said. I'd like that a lot. Over the next month, coffee became a regular thing. Once a week at first, then twice. Sometimes they talked about heavy things, justice and fairness, and the ways the system broke people. Sometimes they talked about nothing: movies they'd seen, books they'd meant to read, the weird customer at the hardware store who'd insisted socket wrenches were a government conspiracy. Marcus found himself looking forward to those meetings in ways that surprised him. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was something else. Something that felt like genuine connection. "You're smiling at your phone again," Danny said one day at work, catching Marcus checking the time. "You got a girlfriend or something?" "Or something," Marcus said, and left it at that. But Sophia was harder to fool. She'd always been perceptive, even at 7 years old. 8 now, her birthday had come and gone with a small party at home, just her and Mrs. Chen, and a cake Marcus had attempted to bake himself. It had been lopsided, and the frosting had melted, but Sophia had declared it perfect because Daddy made it. "Who's Miss Kendall?" Sophia asked one night at dinner casually, like she was asking about the weather. Marcus nearly choked on his pasta. "What?" "Mrs. Chen mentioned her. Said you've been having coffee with a lady named Kendall." Sophia twirled spaghetti on her fork with more focus than the task required. "Is she nice?" "Yes, she's very nice." "Is she pretty?" "Sophia." "Mrs. Chen says you need a girlfriend. Says you've been alone too long and that good men shouldn't be alone forever." Sophia looked up at him with those big eyes that missed nothing. "I think she's right. You smile more now. Like actually smile, not the fake smile you did before." Marcus put down his fork. "Baby girl, Miss Kendall and I are friends. Just friends. She helped Daddy during the court thing, and now we get coffee sometimes, that's all. But do you want it to be more?" How did his 8-year-old daughter ask questions that got straight to the heart of things? "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "I like talking to her. She's smart and kind, and she makes me think about things differently. But it's complicated, Sophia. She was the judge at Daddy's trial. There are rules about that kind of thing." "The trial's over though, right? So the rules are different now." "Maybe. I don't know all the rules." Sophia considered this while eating spaghetti. Then, with the absolute certainty of a child, she said, "I think you should ask her over for dinner, so I can meet her. If she's going to be important to you, I should meet her. That's what families do." "We're not—" "Daddy, I'm 8 now. I understand things. Just invite her to dinner." Marcus wanted to argue to explain that it wasn't that simple. But looking at his daughter's face, so serious, so mature for her age, he realized she was right. If Kendall was becoming important to him, Sophia should meet her. And if Sophia didn't like her well, that would tell him something too. "Okay," he said. "I'll ask her." "Good. And Daddy? Maybe we should clean the apartment first, like really clean it, because right now it looks like a tornado lives here." "A tornado does live here. A tiny 8-year-old tornado." Sophia grinned. "That's fair." Marcus texted Kendall that night. "Sophia wants to meet you. Would you want to come over for dinner this Saturday? Fair warning, she's already planning the menu and informing me our apartment isn't clean enough." The response came quickly. "I'd love to. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself, and maybe low expectations for the cooking. I'm not great at it." "Neither am I. We'll suffer through together." Saturday arrived faster than Marcus expected. He and Sophia spent the morning cleaning, actually cleaning, not just shoving things in closets. Sophia picked out her outfit 3 times before settling on a purple dress with sparkly shoes that lit up when she walked. "Do I look sophisticated?" she asked, spinning in front of the mirror. "You look beautiful, baby girl." "That's not the same as sophisticated. Sophisticated is when you look like you know important things." "Then yes, you look very sophisticated, and like you know many important things." Sophia beamed. Kendall arrived at 6 o'clock, exactly, carrying a bottle of wine and a bag from the bakery downtown. "I know you said not to bring anything," she said when Marcus opened the door, "but I couldn't show up empty-handed. It's a childhood thing. My mother would haunt me." "My mother would haunt me for arguing with a guest. Come in." Sophia appeared from her room like she'd been waiting just out of sight, which she probably had. "Hi, I'm Sophia, but you can call me Sophie if we become friends. Only Daddy calls me Sophia when I'm in trouble or when he's being serious." Kendall knelt down to Sophia's eye level, and Marcus watched something soften in her face. "It's wonderful to meet you, Sophie. I'm Kendall. Thank you for inviting me to dinner." "Did Daddy tell you I planned the menu?" "He did. We're having spaghetti because that's what I'm good at making, and also salad. Even though I don't like tomatoes and bread from the store because Daddy burned the bread he tried to make yesterday." "Sophia, what, you did burn it? The smoke alarm went off and everything." Sophia took Kendall's hand like they'd known each other for years. "Come see my room. I cleaned it special for you." Marcus watched Kendall get pulled down the hallway by his daughter, and something in his chest tightened. This felt right. Felt natural in a way he hadn't expected. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Sophia talked almost non-stop, telling Kendall about school, and her best friend Emma, and the hamster in their classroom named Professor Whiskers. Kendall listened like Sophia was the most fascinating person in the world, asking questions and laughing at all the right moments. "And then," Sophia said, waving her fork dramatically, "Emma said that boys were gross. But I told her that's not fair because Daddy's a boy and he's not gross. Well, except when he doesn't do his laundry and his socks smell bad." "Sophia." "What?" "It's true. Your socks do smell bad sometimes." Kendall was trying not to laugh. "I think all socks smell bad sometimes. It's a universal truth." After dinner, while Marcus cleaned up, refusing Kendall's offer to help, Sophia pulled out her art supplies and insisted on drawing Kendall a picture. "What should I draw?" Sophia asked, already pulling out crayons. "Whatever you want. I'm going to draw you with your magic hammer, because you're basically a superhero." Kendall's eyes met Marcus's across the room, and he saw emotion there. Something raw and real. When the drawing was finished, Kendall in a cape, holding an oversized gavel with stars around her head, Sophia presented it with ceremony. "This is for you, to remember that you're important." Kendall took the drawing with careful hands like it was made of glass. "Sophie, this is beautiful. Thank you. Can I tell you a secret?" Sophia leaned in conspiratorially. "Yes. I still have the first picture you made me. The one you gave the bailiff in court. It's on my refrigerator at home." Sophia's eyes went wide. "Really? Really? Because it reminded me why I do my job, to help people like your daddy who deserve justice." Sophia threw her arms around Kendall's neck in a sudden hug, and Marcus watched Kendall's eyes close her arms, coming up to hold his daughter close. When it was Sophia's bedtime, she insisted Kendall help tuck her in. "Daddy does it every night," Sophia explained, climbing into bed with her stuffed rabbit. "But tonight you can help." They read 2 chapters of Sophia's current favorite book about a girl who solved mysteries with her dog Sophia, providing commentary throughout about how she could definitely solve mysteries if she had a dog, which Daddy kept saying no to, but maybe she'd ask again at Christmas. "Good night, Sophie," Kendall said softly when Sophia's eyes started drooping. "Night, Miss Kendall. You can come to dinner again if you want. You're approved." After Sophia was asleep, Marcus and Kendall sat on the couch with coffee, both of them too full for anything else. "She's wonderful," Kendall said. "Truly. You've done an amazing job raising her." "She's the best thing I've ever done. The only thing I'm sure I got right." "Marcus, you've gotten a lot of things right." Kendall turned to face him. "You're kind. You're resilient. You're a good father. You stopped to help a stranger when you had every reason not to. Those aren't small things." "Sometimes they feel small. When I'm trying to make rent. When Sophia wants new shoes and I have to wait until payday. When I think about how close I came to losing everything." "But you didn't lose it. You're here. She's here. You're building a life." Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. Not the judge from the courtroom. Not the authority figure who'd saved him. Just Kendall. with her hair down and Sophia's crayon drawing in her hands, and something in her eyes that looked like hope. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Anything." "That night in the rain when I fixed your car, I never asked your name." "I know, I realized that later." "If I had, would things have been different?" Kendall was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. Maybe I would have recognized your name when your case came across my desk earlier. Maybe I would have had more time to decide what to do, or maybe—" She paused. "Maybe everything happened exactly the way it needed to. Maybe we weren't supposed to know each other's names that night. Maybe we were just supposed to help each other and the rest would come later." Is this the rest? Is this the later? I think so. Kendall set down her coffee mug. "Marcus, I need to be honest with you about something." His stomach dropped. "What?" "During your trial, when I recognized you, I was terrified. Not just because of the ethical implications, though those were very real. I was terrified because in that one interaction on Riverside Drive, you'd shown me something I'd stopped believing existed in this world." "What?" "Goodness. Real, uncomplicated human goodness. And I thought if I let you go to prison, if I didn't fight for you, then what did that say about me? What did it say about justice?" She looked directly at him. "But there's something else. Over these past weeks getting coffee talking tonight with Sophia, this isn't just about gratitude anymore. Not for me. And I needed to tell you that because I don't want you to think I'm here out of some sense of obligation." Marcus's heart was hammering. "Why are you here?" "Because I like you. Because talking to you is the best part of my week. Because when Sophia hugged me tonight, I felt something I haven't felt in years." Kendall's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Because I think I'm falling for you, and that terrifies me almost as much as what I did in that courtroom." Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the weight of those words settling over him like a blanket. "I'm falling for you too," he said, and saying it out loud made it real. "I have been for weeks. I kept telling myself it was just gratitude, just relief that I'm free. But it's not. It's you. The way you listen. The way you made Sophia feel important tonight. The way you risked everything because you believed in justice more than you believed in rules." Kendall's hand found their fingers intertwining. "This is complicated," she said. "Very complicated. People might talk, might question whether our relationship influenced the trial. Did it? No, the evidence spoke for itself. But people don't always care about truth when gossip is more interesting. So what do we do?" Kendall squeezed his hand. "We take it slow, we're careful, and we decide if this is worth the potential consequences." Marcus thought about Sophia's drawing on Kendall's refrigerator, about the way Kendall had knelt down to Sophia's eye level, about weeks of conversations that had felt like coming home. "It's worth it," he said. "You're worth it." Kendall kissed him, then soft and careful and full of promise. And when they pulled apart, they were both smiling. "Sophie was right," Kendall said. "She is very sophisticated." Marcus laughed, really laughed, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, the future felt like something to look forward to, instead of something to survive. This was the rest. This was the later. And it was better than any miracle he could have imagined. The next morning, Sophia appeared in Marcus's doorway at 6:30, already dressed for school, her hair pulled back in a lopsided ponytail she'd clearly done herself. "So, when is Miss Kendall coming back?" she asked, climbing onto his bed and sitting cross-legged on the comforter. Marcus rubbed his eyes. "We didn't make specific plans, baby girl. But she's coming back, right, because I really liked her. And also because you smiled the whole time she was here, even when you thought I wasn't looking. You don't miss anything, do you?" "Nope. Mrs. Chen says I'm perceptive. That means I notice stuff." Sophia flopped backward dramatically. "So are you going to date her? Like actually date her? Because that would be really cool. She could be like my bonus mom. Not my real mom, because I don't remember her anyway, but like a mom who chose to be here." Marcus's throat tightened. Sophia rarely mentioned her mother, The woman who'd left when Sophia was barely 2, who'd decided motherhood wasn't for her, and disappeared with barely a goodbye. Marcus had kept one photo of her tucked away in case Sophia ever wanted to see it. So far, she never had. It's complicated, Sophie. Miss Kendall was the judge at Daddy's trial. There are rules about relationships when someone's been your judge. But the trial's over, so the rules are over too, right? It's not that simple. Sophia sat up and looked at him with those impossibly wise 8-year-old eyes. Daddy, I'm going to tell you something Mrs. Chen told me. She said that people who help each other when things are bad, they're meant to be in each other's lives. And Miss Kendall helped you. And you helped her first with her car. So maybe you're meant to be in each other's lives. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't always listen. She bounced off the bed. I'm having cereal. The chocolate kind, not the healthy kind, because today feels like a chocolate cereal day. Sophia. I already brushed my teeth. I'll brush them again after. Marcus listened to his daughter thunder down the hallway, and despite everything, he smiled. She was right. About a lot of things, but mostly about how complicated feelings didn't care about rules. He texted Kendall while Sophia was eating breakfast. Thank you for last night. Sophia is officially your biggest fan. She's already asking when you're coming back. The response came a few minutes later. Last night was wonderful. She's an incredible kid, Marcus. You should be proud. And tell her I'd love to come back soon. Maybe next weekend. Marcus stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. This was real. This was actually happening. A woman he admired, maybe more than admired, wanted to be part of his and Sophia's life. Next weekend sounds perfect. But perfect lasted exactly 3 days. Marcus was at work helping a customer choose between 2 types of drill bits when his phone buzzed with a call from a number he didn't recognize. He let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. Excuse me for just a second, he told the customer, stepping away to answer. Hello. Mr. Webb. This is Jennifer Martinez from Channel 7 News. I'm doing a story about Judge Kendall Ross and her handling of your case. I was hoping you'd be willing to comment on the relationship between you and the judge. Marcus's blood went cold. I'm sorry, what? We've received information that you and Judge Ross had contact prior to your trial. That she may have had a conflict of interest that she didn't disclose. Can you confirm whether you knew Judge Ross before your trial began? No comment. Marcus ended the call, his hands shaking. It rang again immediately. He declined it. Then a text came through. Mr. Webb, we're running this story tonight at 6. It would be better for everyone if you gave your side. Please call me back. Marcus's next break wasn't for another hour, but Patricia saw him standing frozen in the aisle staring at his phone and waved him to the back office. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I need to make a call. Can I use the office? Of course. Take your time. Marcus called Kendall. It went to voicemail. He tried again. Still voicemail. He texted her. Call me. It's urgent. A reporter just contacted me about us. Then he called Mr. Flores. Marcus, what's going on? A reporter just called me, from Channel 7. She's asking about whether Kendall and I knew each other before the trial. Someone told them we had contact. Mr. Flores, if this comes out, slow down. Tell me exactly what she said. Marcus repeated the conversation as best he could remember, his heart racing. Mr. Flores was quiet for a long moment. This is bad, Marcus. If a news station is investigating this, it means someone filed a complaint or leaked information. The Judicial Review Board will have to investigate. Judge Ross could face serious consequences. What kind of consequences? Suspension, disbarment, criminal charges for judicial misconduct, though that's unlikely given that you were found innocent. But her career, Marcus, this could destroy her career. Marcus felt like he was drowning. This is my fault. We should have been more careful. It's not your fault. But Marcus, you need to decide right now how you're going to handle this. If reporters start digging, They're going to find out you and Judge Ross have been seeing each other. They're going to make it look like she was biased from the start. But she wasn't. The evidence cleared me. The forensic accountants proved Gregory set me up. Her recognizing me had nothing to do with the verdict. You know that. I know that. But the court of public opinion doesn't care about nuance. They care about scandal. Mr. Flores sighed. Don't talk to any reporters, not a word. And Marcus, you might want to prepare yourself for this to get ugly. Kendall called back 20 minutes later. Marcus was sitting in Patricia's office, his head in his hands. Marcus, I got your messages. What happened? He told her about the reporter, about the questions, about how they were running the story tonight. As he talked, he heard Kendall's breathing change, heard the moment she understood what this meant. Oh God, she said quietly. Someone filed a complaint. That's the only way they'd know to ask these questions. Who would do that? Gregory Phillips, or his lawyer. They're facing criminal charges now. This would be their way of fighting back, claiming the trial was biased, that I had a personal relationship with you that influenced my ruling. But you didn't. We weren't dating during the trial. We barely knew each other. We'd met Marcus. That's all that matters. I should have recused myself the moment I recognized you. I didn't. And now, her voice cracked. I'm going to lose everything. No, we'll fight this. We'll explain what really happened. How do we explain that I recognized a defendant from a random encounter weeks before his trial and decided to stay on the case anyway? That I demanded forensic examination of evidence another judge had already reviewed? That I pushed for a level of scrutiny I don't normally apply? Kendall laughed, but it was bitter. Marcus, I broke the rules. I knew I was breaking them. I did it anyway because I believed it was right, but that doesn't change the fact that I violated judicial ethics. So what do we do? I don't know. I need to call my supervisor. I need to think. She paused. Marcus, this is going to get bad. For both of us. The media is going to dig into everything. Your life, my life, our relationship. They're going to make it look sordid and corrupt. I don't care what they say about me. You should care. You have Sophia to think about. What happens when this is all over the news? When her classmates' parents see stories about her father and the judge who supposedly let him off because they were having an affair. We weren't having an affair. It doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter when the lie is more interesting. Kendall's voice rose. Then she caught herself. I'm sorry. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at myself. I knew this was risky. I knew someone might find out. I thought we'd have more time. Marcus closed his eyes. What do you want me to do? Nothing. Don't talk to reporters. Don't confirm or deny anything. And Marcus, her voice softened. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. You saved my life. And now I might have ruined it in a different way. She hung up before Marcus could argue. The story ran at 6 o'clock. Marcus watched it with Sophia at Mrs. Chen's house because he couldn't bear to have his daughter see it alone at home. Mrs. Chen sat beside them, her face grave. The reporter, Jennifer Martinez, stood outside the courthouse with a serious expression. Tonight, we're investigating allegations of judicial misconduct involving Judge Kendall Ross and a defendant whose case she presided over. Sources tell Channel 7 that Judge Ross had prior contact with Marcus Webb before his embezzlement trial began. Contact she failed to disclose to the court. Webb was ultimately cleared of all charges, but questions now surround whether Judge Ross's ruling was influenced by her personal relationship with the defendant. The screen showed Marcus's face, his case file photo looking exhausted and desperate. Then a photo of Kendall in her robes. Then footage of them leaving the cafe together 3 weeks ago. Someone had been watching them. Someone had been taking pictures. While both Webb and Judge Ross have declined to comment, legal experts say this case raises serious questions about judicial ethics and conflicts of interest. The Judicial Review Board has confirmed they're opening an investigation. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. Sophia looked up at Marcus, her eyes wide. Daddy, what does that mean? Why are they saying bad things about Miss Kendall? Marcus pulled his daughter close. Sometimes people don't understand the whole story, baby. They only see part of it. But Miss Kendall is good. She helped you. Why would anyone say she did something wrong? Because the world isn't always fair, Sophie. Even when people do the right thing, sometimes they get punished for it. Mrs. Chen touched his shoulder. This will blow over, Marcus. The truth will come out. But Marcus wasn't sure he believed that anymore. His phone started ringing almost immediately. More reporters. He declined every call. Then a text from Danny at work. Dude, you're on the news. Are you okay? Another from Patricia. Marcus, take tomorrow off if you need to. I've got your back. And one from Mr. Flores. The prosecutor's office just announced they're reviewing your case. They're looking into whether Judge Ross's ruling should be vacated. I'm sorry, Marcus. Marcus felt his world tilt. They're reviewing the case. What does that mean? He called Mr. Flores back immediately. It means they want to determine if Judge Ross's alleged bias affected the outcome. If they decide it did, they could vacate your acquittal and order a new trial. But I'm innocent. The forensic evidence proved it. I know. But if they can claim the trial was tainted by judicial misconduct, they can argue the evidence wasn't properly evaluated. Marcus, this is Gregory's lawyer's doing. They're trying to get his charges dropped by claiming your trial was illegitimate. Marcus couldn't breathe. After everything, after 6 months of hell, and finally finding freedom, they were going to take it away again. And Kendall was going to lose her career trying to defend what she'd done. What do? We wait. We hope the review board sees through this. And Marcus, you might want to distance yourself from Judge Ross, for both your sakes. Distance himself. From the woman who'd saved him. From the woman he was falling in love with. From the woman who is now paying the price for believing in justice. That night after Sophia was asleep, Marcus sat in the dark living room and stared at his phone. He wanted to call Kendall. Wanted to hear her voice. Wanted to tell her this wasn't her fault, that he didn't regret any of it. But what if Mr. Flores was right? What if staying close to her only made things worse? His phone buzzed. A text from Kendall. I need to see you. Can you meet me tomorrow? The park on Henderson Street. 10 a.m. Marcus stared at the message for a long time before responding. I'll be there. The park was nearly empty when Marcus arrived the next morning. Sophia was at school, and he'd told Patricia he needed a few hours. Kendall was already there, sitting on a bench wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Marcus sat beside her, not touching. They'd been photographed once. They couldn't risk it again. They suspended me, Kendall said without preamble. Pending the investigation. I have a hearing in 2 weeks. Kendall, let me finish, please. She took a shaky breath. The Judicial Review Board is investigating whether I violated ethics rules by not recusing myself. The prosecutor's office is reviewing whether to vacate your acquittal and order a new trial. And Gregory Phillips's lawyer is arguing that his charges should be dropped because they're based on evidence from a tainted trial. This is insane. This is consequences. Kendall finally looked at him, and even through the sunglasses he could see she'd been crying. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you weeks ago. What? When I first saw your case file, when I realized who you were, I called my supervisor. I told her I'd had prior contact with the defendant and asked if I should recuse myself. Marcus went still. What did she say? She said as long as the contact was minimal and didn't involve the case, I could use my discretion. She said judges encounter people all the time in their daily lives, and we can't recuse ourselves every time we recognize someone. Kendall's hands twisted in her lap. So technically, I didn't break the rules, not by staying on your case. Then why are they suspending you? Because after the trial, I started a relationship with you. That's the problem. Not that I recognized you before, but that I pursued a personal relationship after. They're arguing that the relationship proves I had feelings for you during the trial, which means I should have recused myself from the start. Marcus felt his stomach drop. So this is about us, about what we are now. Yes. Then we stop. We end this, right now, before you lose everything. Kendall turned to him, pulling off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. Marcus, that won't change anything. The damage is done. Whether we're together or not, they're still investigating. They're still reviewing your case. Gregory's lawyer is still trying to use this to get his charges dropped. But if we're not together, it proves this wasn't about personal feelings. It proves you were just doing your job. Does it? Or does it prove I started a relationship with a defendant and only ended it when I got caught? Kendall shook her head. There's no good way out of this, Marcus. No matter what we do, someone's going to spin it as corrupt. They sat in silence for a moment. A mother pushing a stroller walked past. A dog barked somewhere. Normal life continuing, while theirs fell apart. I'm not sorry, Kendall said finally. I know I should be. I know I should regret staying on your case, regret not recusing myself, regret all of it. But I'm not sorry. You would be in prison right now if I'd recused myself. An innocent man would be in prison, and his daughter would be in foster care, and Gregory Phillips would have gotten away with framing you. I'm not sorry I stopped that. What about us? Marcus asked quietly. Are you sorry about us? Kendall reached over and took his hand right there in public where anyone could see. No, I'm not sorry about us either. You're Marcus. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, you and Sophia. You've reminded me why I became a judge in the first place. Not to shuffle papers and follow procedures, but to actually help people. To fight for justice, even when it's hard. So what do? We fight. We tell the truth. We let the investigation happen, and we trust that the truth will be enough. She squeezed his hand. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. Even if I keep my license, even if they decide I didn't violate ethics rules, my reputation is damaged. No one's going to want to appear before me. They'll always wonder if I'm biased. My career as I knew it is probably over. That's not fair. No, it's not, but it's reality. She smiled, but it was sad. My supervisor told me this morning that I should consider resigning. She said it would be easier for everyone. I'd avoid the hearing, avoid the media circus, and I could maybe practice law somewhere else. Start over. Are you going to resign? Kendall was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I don't know. Part of me wants to fight this. Wants to prove that what I did was right, that justice matters more than rules. But the other part? Her voice broke. The other part is tired, Marcus. I'm so tired of fighting, and I don't want to drag you and Sophia through this. The hearing is going to be public. Reporters are going to be there. They're going to ask you questions, dig into your life, make you relive everything. I can handle it. Can Sophia? Because they're not going to leave her alone either. She's going to hear things. Kids at school are going to repeat things their parents say. Are you prepared for that? Marcus thought about his daughter, about her drawing of the magic hammer lady, about how she'd asked when Miss Kendall was coming back, about the trust in her eyes when she'd said judges were fair. I'll protect her, he said. Whatever happens, I'll protect her. I know you will. You're a good father, Marcus. The best. Kendall stood up, pulling her hand away. I need to go. My lawyer wants to prep me for the hearing. But Marcus, whatever you decide, whether you want to distance yourself from this, whether you want to end this before it gets worse, I'll understand. I won't blame you. I'm not ending this. You might want to, after the hearing, after you see what they're going to say about us. She put her sunglasses back on. I'll call you after I talk to my lawyer. And Marcus, thank you. For everything. For stopping that night in the rain. For being exactly who I hoped you were. She walked away before he could respond, and Marcus sat alone on the bench, watching her go. The woman who'd saved him was drowning, and he didn't know how to save her back. His phone rang. Mr. Flores. Marcus, I just got word. The prosecutor's office is dropping the review of your case. Marcus's heart leaped. What, why? Because the forensic evidence is ironclad. Even if they argue the trial was biased, the actual evidence proves you're innocent. They can't touch that. Gregory's lawyer tried, but it didn't work. You're clear, Marcus. For real this time. And Gregory's charges? Still moving forward. Judge Ross's conduct doesn't change what he did. He's still going to trial for fraud and embezzlement. Relief flooded through Marcus so intense it almost hurt. So this is over, for me. For you. Yes, but Marcus, Judge Ross is still facing the review board. Her case isn't connected to yours anymore, but she's still got to answer for what she did. And without your case hanging in the balance, it's going to be harder for her to justify why she stayed on it. Marcus understood what Mr. Flores wasn't saying. He was safe, but Kendall was still in danger. And the thing that had protected her, the argument that she'd uncovered the truth that justice had been served, didn't matter as much now that his acquittal was secure. She'd saved him. And now she was going to face the consequences alone. Mr. Flores, I need to testify at her hearing. Marcus, that might not be a good idea. I don't care. She risked everything for me. The least I can do is tell the truth about what happened, about why she did what she did. They might not let you testify. You're not a lawyer. You're not an expert on judicial ethics. But I'm the defendant. I'm the person whose case she presided over. That has to count for something. Mr. Flores sighed. I'll see what I can do, but Marcus, be prepared for them to ask about your relationship, about when it started, about whether you think her feelings for you influenced her ruling. Her feelings didn't influence anything. The evidence spoke for itself. You believe that. I believe that. But can you prove it? Marcus didn't have an answer for that. That evening he picked Sophia up from school and took her to their favorite ice cream place. She ordered her usual chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, and Marcus got nothing, his stomach too twisted to eat. Daddy, you're doing the worried face again. Sophia said, chocolate already on her nose. Sorry, baby. Just thinking about grown-up stuff. Is it about Miss Kendall? Because Emma's mom asked me about her today. She said she saw you and Miss Kendall on TV. Marcus's chest tightened. What did Emma's mom say? She asked if Miss Kendall was your girlfriend. I said maybe because I wasn't sure if you were official yet. Then she got this weird look on her face and said she had to go. Sophia licked her spoon thoughtfully. I think maybe she didn't like that answer, but I don't know why. Miss Kendall is nice. Baby girl, some people might say not nice things about Miss Kendall in the next couple of weeks. Things on TV or things their parents say. But I need you to know that Miss Kendall is a good person who did the right thing. Can you remember that? Sophia nodded seriously. I can remember. Because she is good. She helped you. And also she listened to all my stories about Professor Whiskers and didn't look bored even once. That's how you know someone's really nice. Marcus pulled his daughter close, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo mixed with chocolate ice cream. You're the smartest person I know. I know, Sophia said simply. Can I have your ice cream since you're not eating it? Go ahead. As Marcus watched his daughter devour a second ice cream, he made a decision. He was going to testify at Kendall's hearing. He was going to tell the truth about what happened, about why she'd stayed on his case, about how her courage had saved an innocent man. And if they questioned his motives, if they implied he was just defending her because they were in a relationship, he'd deal with that too. Kendall had fought for him when no one else would. Now it was his turn to fight for her, even if it cost him everything. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Marcus woke up at 5, unable to sleep, and sat at his kitchen table drinking coffee that tasted like anxiety. Mr. Flores had managed to get him approved as a witness, But the review board had made it clear they were allowing it as a courtesy, not because they thought his testimony would matter. They've already made up their minds, Mr. Flores had warned him yesterday. The optics are bad, Marcus. A judge who had prior contact with a defendant then started dating him after the trial. It doesn't matter that the evidence was solid. It doesn't matter that justice was served. What matters is that it looks improper. So why am I testifying? Because it's the right thing to do, and because maybe, just maybe, someone on that board will actually listen. Now, watching the sun come up through his kitchen window, Marcus wasn't so sure. But he'd promised himself he'd fight for Kendall the way she'd fought for him, even if it was hopeless. Sophia shuffled into the kitchen at 6:30, dragging her stuffed rabbit. "Is today the day you help Miss Kendall?" "Yeah, baby, today's the day." "Are you scared?" Marcus pulled his daughter onto his lap. "A little bit." "That's okay. Being scared means you care about something important." She hugged him tight. "You're going to do good, Daddy. I know it." "How do you know?" "Because you always do good when it matters. Like when you fixed that lady's car in the rain. You didn't have to, but you did. And that's the same as this. You don't have to help Miss Kendall, but you're going to anyway, because that's who you are." Marcus held his daughter close and wondered when she'd gotten so wise. The hearing room was smaller than Marcus expected. Not a courtroom, but a conference room with a long table where 5 board members sat. Kendall sat at one end with her lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Catherine Wu. Reporters filled the back row, their cameras focused on Kendall's face. Marcus waited in the hallway, pacing. Mr. Flores stood beside him, checking his watch every few minutes. "You don't have to do this," Mr. Flores said quietly. "You can leave right now. No one would blame you." "I'm staying. They're going to ask about your relationship, about when it started, about whether you think her feelings influenced her ruling." "I know. And you're prepared to answer honestly, even if those answers hurt her case." Marcus looked at his attorney. "The truth is that Kendall Ross is the most ethical person I've ever met. She stayed on my case because she saw evidence that another judge had ignored. She demanded a forensic examination that proved my innocence. And yeah, we started a relationship after the trial, but that doesn't change what she did or why she did it. They won't see it that way. Then that's their problem." The door opened. Catherine Wu stepped out. "Mr. Webb, they're ready for you." Marcus walked into the hearing room, his heart hammering. Kendall looked up as he entered, and their eyes met. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. But when she saw him, something in her face softened. The board chair, a stern woman in her 60s named Margaret Henshaw, gestured to the witness chair. "Mr. Webb, please have a seat. I want to remind you that while this is not a criminal proceeding, you are expected to testify truthfully. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Let's begin." She looked down at her notes. "Mr. Webb, can you describe your first interaction with Judge Ross?" Marcus took a breath and told them about that rainy night, about seeing her car broken down, about stopping to help even though he had every reason to keep driving, about fixing her battery terminal and refusing payment. "And did Judge Ross tell you her name that night?" Henshaw asked. "No, ma'am, she didn't, and I didn't ask." "But you told her yours?" "Yes, she asked and I told her, but I never asked hers in return." "Why not?" Marcus thought about that night, about how tired he'd been, about the trial looming 3 weeks away. "Because I didn't think I'd see her again. I was just helping someone who needed help. I didn't need to know her name for that." One of the other board members, a younger man named David Chen, leaned forward. "Mr. Webb, 3 weeks after this encounter, you appeared before Judge Ross in your criminal trial. Do you remember recognizing her?" "Yes, sir. The moment she walked into the courtroom." "And what was your reaction?" "I was shocked, confused. I thought maybe I was imagining it, that my mind was playing tricks because I was desperate for hope." "Did Judge Ross give any indication that she recognized you?" Marcus hesitated. This was the dangerous part. Not at first. She kept her face completely neutral, professional. But I knew. And I think she knew that I knew. So you're saying Judge Ross recognized you, but pretended not to? I'm saying she recognized me, but remained professional. She didn't acknowledge our prior meeting, because if she had, she would have had to recuse herself. And if she'd recused herself, my case would have gone to a different judge who wouldn't have questioned the evidence. Henshaw's expression hardened. Mr. Webb, are you suggesting that Judge Ross intentionally concealed your prior contact in order to stay on your case? I'm suggesting that Judge Ross saw evidence that was clearly flawed and demanded a proper examination. The forensic report proved I was innocent. That's not bias, that's justice. But she had a duty to disclose your prior contact. Did she? Marcus met Henshaw's eyes directly. I've read the judicial ethics guidelines since all this started. They say a judge should recuse themselves if they have a personal or professional relationship with a party. We didn't have a relationship. We had one interaction where I helped a stranger with car trouble. Is that really enough to disqualify someone from hearing a case? Chen spoke up again. Mr. Webb, when did your relationship with Judge Ross begin? After the trial. About 2 weeks after. And who initiated contact? Marcus felt Kendall's eyes on him. I think it was mutual. We ran into each other at the hardware store where I work. We got coffee. We talked. About the trial. About a lot of things. Yes, the trial came up. But mostly we talked about life. About our families. About... He paused. About being people who'd been through something difficult and came out the other side. Mr. Webb, do you believe Judge Ross had romantic feelings for you during your trial? There it was. The question that could destroy everything. Marcus looked at Kendall. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't read. Trust maybe. Or fear. Or resignation. No, he said firmly. I don't believe she had romantic feelings for me during the trial. I believe she had professional concern for a defendant whose case had been mishandled. I believe she was doing her job the way it should have been done from the start. And I believe she stayed on my case because she knew another judge wouldn't give me a fair shake. That's quite a leap of faith, Henshaw said dryly. You're asking us to believe that Judge Ross risked her career purely out of professional duty. I'm asking you to look at the facts. The forensic examination proved I was innocent. Gregory Phillips is now facing criminal charges for what he did. Justice was served. Isn't that what matters? What matters? Henshaw said coldly, is that judges follow the rules, that they avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Judge Ross failed to do that. Because she chose justice over rules. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. Because she saw a man being railroaded by a corrupt system and decided to actually investigate instead of rubber stamping another conviction, that's not misconduct, that's courage. Mr. Webb, you're not here to argue ethics. You're here to provide testimony. Then let me testify to this. Marcus leaned forward. 6 months ago, I was arrested for something I didn't do. The evidence against me was fabricated, but no one cared enough to look closely. I was just another poor black man accused of theft, and everyone assumed I was guilty. My court-appointed lawyer was doing his best, but he didn't have the resources to fight back. I was going to prison. My daughter was going to foster care. And then Judge Ross looked at my case. His voice cracked, but he pushed through. She didn't look at me and see a criminal. She looked at the evidence and saw holes. She asked questions that should have been asked months earlier. She demanded the kind of thorough examination that every defendant deserves, but most of us never get. And because she did that, because she had the courage to actually do her job right, I'm free. My daughter has her father. An innocent man didn't go to prison. Very moving, Mr. Webb, Henshaw said. But none of that changes the fact that Judge Ross violated ethical guidelines. Did she? Or did she follow the spirit of those guidelines while everyone else just follows the letter? Marcus stood up. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I think you're punishing Judge Ross for being the kind of judge we should all want. The kind who cares more about justice than about covering her own back. The kind who'll risk everything to make sure an innocent man doesn't lose everything. That's not misconduct. That's heroism." "Sit down, Mr. Webb." "I'm not finished. You want to know if Judge Ross was biased? She was biased toward the truth. You want to know if our relationship influenced her ruling? The forensic evidence influenced her ruling. Everything else is just politics and optics and a system that's more interested in protecting itself than protecting people." "Mr. Webb, sit down now or you'll be removed." Marcus sat, his heart racing. He'd probably just made everything worse. But looking at Kendall's face, seeing the tears in her eyes, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. The questioning continued for another 30 minutes, but it was perfunctory. The board members had made up their minds before he'd walked in. Marcus could see it in their faces. They were going through the motions, checking boxes, preparing to deliver a verdict they'd already decided. When he was finally dismissed, Marcus walked past Kendall without looking at her. He couldn't. If he looked at her now with the reporters watching, with her career hanging in the balance, he'd break down completely. In the hallway, Mr. Flores caught up with him. "That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever seen in a hearing." "Probably both." "You might have just cost her the case, you know. They don't like being lectured about ethics by civilians." "I don't care. Someone needed to say it." Mr. Flores shook his head, but he was almost smiling. "You're a good man, Marcus Webb. Frustrating as hell, but good." The hearing concluded at noon. The board announced they would deliberate and issue a decision within 7 days. Marcus went back to work, trying to focus on customers and inventory, and anything that wasn't the image of Kendall sitting alone at that table while 5 people decided her fate. He didn't hear from her that day, or the next. By the 3rd day, he was starting to worry. Had he made things worse with his testimony? Had his anger at the board cost Kendall what little chance she'd had? Finally, on Thursday evening, his phone rang. Kendall's number. "Hello?" "Hi." Her voice was soft, tired. "I'm sorry I haven't called. I've been meeting with my lawyer trying to figure out next steps." "How are you holding up?" "I'm not really. But I'm pretending to." She laughed, but it was hollow. "Marcus, about your testimony." "I'm sorry if I made things worse. I know I got angry. I know I probably shouldn't have lectured them about ethics. But I couldn't just sit there and let them tear you apart." "You didn't make things worse. You made them better. Not legally, maybe. But—" Her voice caught. "Marcus, no one's ever defended me like that. No one's ever fought for me the way you fought in that hearing. And I just wanted to say thank you." "You don't need to thank me. You saved my life. This is the least I could do." "It's not the least. It's everything." She was quiet for a moment. "The board will issue their decision next Tuesday. My lawyer thinks they're going to recommend suspension at minimum, possibly disbarment." "Kendall, it's okay. I've made my peace with it. If I lose my license, I'll practice law differently. Maybe I'll go into advocacy work. Maybe I'll teach. I don't know. But Marcus, I need to tell you something." "What?" "Whatever happens with the board, whatever they decide, I don't regret any of it. Not staying on your case, not demanding that forensic examination, not starting a relationship with you afterward. None of it. You showed me what integrity looks like, and I wanted to show you that justice could actually exist. Even if it cost me everything, it was worth it." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. "You didn't just show me justice existed. You showed me that goodness gets rewarded sometimes. That stopping to help someone in the rain can change your whole life. Changed mine too." They talked for another hour about everything and nothing. About Sophia's latest art project and Kendall's plants that she kept forgetting to water, and whether they'd ever be able to go out to dinner without reporters following them. Normal things. Sweet things. The kind of conversation that reminded Marcus why he'd fallen for her in the first place. "I should let you go," Kendall finally said. "It's getting late and you've got work tomorrow." "Kendall, wait. Before you hang up, no matter what the board decides, I'm not going anywhere. You understand that, right? Whether you're a judge or a lawyer or anything else, I'm still here." "Marcus, I mean it. You and me and Sophia, we're figuring this out together. The rest is just details." He heard her crying now, really crying. "How did I get so lucky? After everything that's happened, all the chaos and the scandal and the potential career destruction, how did I end up with someone like you?" "You stopped in the rain," Marcus said simply. "You let a stranger help you, and that stranger turned out to be someone worth knowing. Worth more than knowing, worth everything." The weekend dragged by in slow motion. Marcus took Sophia to the park, helped Mrs. Chen with her grocery shopping, picked up extra shifts at the hardware store. Anything to keep from obsessively checking his phone every 5 minutes. On Monday night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what would happen tomorrow. Would they suspend Kendall Disbar, her issue a public reprimand? Whatever they decided, it would be on the news within hours. And Sophia would hear about it at school, and Marcus would have to explain again why good people sometimes got punished for doing the right thing. At 7:30 Tuesday morning, his phone rang. "Kendall." "They issued the decision early," she said without preamble. "My lawyer just called." Marcus sat up, his heart racing. "And public reprimand, mandatory ethics training, probation for 1 year. But I keep my license." "What? But they were talking about suspension." "I know, Catherine thinks it's because of the public pressure. After your testimony went viral, did you know it went viral?" "What?" "Someone recorded your testimony and posted it online. It's been viewed over 2 million times. People are calling you the Justice Defender. There's a petition with 100,000 signatures demanding the board clear me completely." Kendall laughed, and this time it sounded real. "Marcus, you started a movement." "I just told the truth." "You did more than that. You reminded people that the system is supposed to work for everyone, not just people with money and connections. You made them see what judicial courage looks like." She took a breath. "The board's statement says they found that while I should have disclosed our prior contact, my handling of the case was otherwise professional and thorough. They acknowledge that the forensic examination was warranted and that justice was ultimately served. It's not a complete victory, but Marcus, I get to keep practicing law. I get to keep fighting for people who need someone in their corner." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. "You did it. You actually did it. We did it. I couldn't have survived this without you." "So what happens now?" "Now I go back to work. Finish my probation. Probably deal with whispers and side eyes from other judges for a while. But I'm still here. Still standing. Still fighting." She paused. "And Marcus, I'd really like to take you and Sophia out to dinner this weekend. A real dinner in public where we don't hide or worry about cameras. Because I'm tired of pretending we're anything other than what we are. What are we? I don't know yet. But I'd like to find out, if you're willing." Marcus thought about that rainy night 6 months ago, about stopping to help a stranger when he had every reason to keep driving, about how one small act of kindness had cascaded into something bigger than he could have imagined, about the woman who'd risked everything to make sure justice was served, and the daughter who'd known from the start that the magic hammer lady was someone special. "I'm willing," he said. "I'm very willing." That Saturday, Marcus, Sophia, and Kendall went to dinner at a small Italian restaurant downtown. Sophia wore her favorite purple dress. Kendall wore jeans and a sweater, her hair down, looking more relaxed than Marcus had seen her in weeks. And Marcus wore the suit Mr. Flores had given him because Sophia insisted this was a fancy occasion, and fancy occasions required fancy clothes. They sat in a corner booth, and Sophia talked almost non-stop about her week at school, about how Emma's mom had apologized for being weird about how Professor Whiskers, the class hamster, had escaped, and they'd found him in the art supply closet eating construction paper. And then Mrs. Patterson said that maybe we should name him Houdini instead, because he's so good at escaping, Sophia said, shoving pasta into her mouth. But I said we already named him Professor Whiskers, and you can't just change someone's name because they're good at something. That would be like calling Daddy Mr. Fix Cars instead of Daddy. Kendall laughed. That's very wise, Sophie. I know. I'm full of wisdom. Mrs. Chen says so. After dinner, they walked through the park near the restaurant. Sophia ran ahead chasing pigeons and laughing when they flew away. Marcus and Kendall walked slowly behind her, their hands intertwined. She's wonderful, Kendall said, watching Sophia spin in circles. You've raised an incredible human being. She raised herself mostly. I just tried not to screw her up too badly. You did more than that. You showed her what integrity looks like. What it means to help people even when it's hard. She's going to grow up to be someone amazing because of you. Someone with your influence in her life won't hurt either. Kendall stopped walking and turned to face him. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something I've been thinking about a lot these past few weeks. Okay. When this all started, when I first saw your case file and realized who you were, I told myself I was staying on the case because of justice. Because the evidence was flawed and you deserved a fair trial. And that was true. But if I'm being completely honest, there was more to it than that. What do you mean? That night in the rain when you stopped to help me, you gave me something I didn't even know I needed. Hope. Hope that goodness still existed in the world. Hope that people could be kind without expecting anything in return. Hope that maybe I wasn't wasting my life trying to make a broken system work. Kendall's eyes were bright with tears. And I think part of me stayed on your case because I couldn't let the world punish you for being the kind of person who gave me that hope. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. So when they asked if my feelings influenced my ruling, maybe the answer should have been yes. Not romantic feelings, but the belief that you were someone worth saving, that you deserved better than what you were getting. Is that bias? Maybe. But if believing in someone's character is bias, then I'm guilty as charged. Marcus pulled her close. You saved me, Kendall, not just from prison, from losing faith in everything. You showed me that the system can work if the right people are in it. People who care more about truth than convenience. We saved each other then. Yeah, I think we did. Sophia came running back breathless and grinning. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Miss Kendall hasn't tried the place with the good chocolate yet, and that's basically a crime. I don't know if judges are allowed to commit crimes, Marcus said, trying to keep a straight face. It's okay, I'll pardon her. I have that authority now. I decided. Kendall laughed. Well, if you're pardoning me, then I guess we have to get ice cream. They walked to Sweet Dreams' parlor, Sophia between them, holding both their hands. And for the first time in months, Marcus felt something that might have been peace. Not because everything was perfect, not because all their problems were solved, but because he was walking with his daughter and a woman he was falling in love with, and for right now, that was enough. At the ice cream shop, Sophia ordered chocolate with rainbow sprinkles as always. Kendall got vanilla with caramel. Marcus got nothing because his stomach was still too full from dinner, and Sophia immediately declared she'd eat his share too if he wasn't careful. You're going to make yourself sick, Marcus warned. Worth it, Sophia said solemnly. They sat in their usual booth, and Kendall watched Sophia devour ice cream with the single-minded focus of an 8-year-old on a mission. Can I ask you something, Sophie? Kendall said. Sure. That first picture you drew of me, the one you gave to the bailiff during your dad's trial. What made you draw that? Sophia thought about this while licking her spoon. Because you looked sad. Not mean sad, just tired sad. Like Daddy looks sometimes when he thinks I'm not watching, And I thought maybe if I drew you being a superhero, you'd remember that you were supposed to help people, that you had the magic hammer." Kendall's eyes filled with tears. "Did it work?" "Yep, you saved Daddy, so the magic worked." Sophia grinned. "I'm really good at magic." "You really are." Later, after they dropped Sophia off with Mrs. Chen for a sleepover, Sophia's idea presented with all the subtlety of a freight train, Marcus and Kendall sat in his car outside her apartment. "She engineered this, you know," Kendall said, smiling. "The sleepover. She wanted us to have time alone. She's 8 going on 30. She's protective of you, wants to make sure you're happy." "I am happy." Marcus took Kendall's hand. "Happier than I've been in a long time. Maybe ever. Even with all the chaos, the scandal, the reporters, especially with all that, because it means what we have is real. We didn't get here the easy way. We fought for this. Both of us." Kendall leaned over and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. "You want to come up? I make terrible coffee, but I've been told my company is acceptable." "Your company is more than acceptable." They spent the evening on her couch talking about everything and nothing, about the future they might build together, about whether Sophia would be okay with Kendall becoming a more permanent part of their lives, about what it would mean to blend their worlds together, his hardware store shifts and single-parent routines, her courtroom schedule, and professional obligations. "It won't be easy," Kendall said, her head resting on Marcus's shoulder. "People are still going to talk. Other judges are still going to question my judgment. There are going to be days when I wonder if I did the right thing. And on those days, I'll remind you that you saved an innocent man's life, that you gave a little girl her father back, that you prove justice can exist if someone's brave enough to fight for it. You're going to make me cry again. Good. I've cried enough these past few months. Your turn." They fell asleep on her couch, wrapped around each other, and Marcus dreamed of rain and broken cars, and a choice made on a dark road that had changed everything. 3 months later, Marcus stood in his bathroom staring at a small velvet box. The ring inside was simple. He still couldn't afford anything fancy, but it sparkled in the morning light. He'd been carrying it around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Sophia burst into the bathroom without knocking, as was her custom. "Daddy, I need to tell you something important." "Oh, is that the ring?" Marcus tried to hide the box, but it was too late. "Sophia, privacy. Is that the ring you're going to give Miss Kendall?" Sophia bounced on her toes. "Can I see it? Please, please, please." Marcus sighed and opened the box. Sophia gasped like she was looking at the crown jewels. "It's beautiful. She's going to love it. When are you going to ask her? Can I be there? I should be there. This is important. I was thinking about asking her this weekend. We're going to that park where we had our second date." "Boring. You should do it somewhere special. Somewhere that means something." "The park does mean something." "No, Daddy. You should ask her where it all started, where you first met." Sophia's eyes went wide. "Riverside Drive, where you fixed her car. That's the most romantic place ever." Marcus considered this. "That's actually not a bad idea, baby girl." "I know. I'm full of good ideas. And Daddy, you should let me help. I can decorate. I'm really good at decorating." "Sophia, please. This is going to be my mom too, kind of. I should help." Marcus looked at his daughter's eager face and felt his heart swell. "Okay, you can help, but no glitter. Miss Kendall's car is fancy. Just a little glitter. No glitter. You're no fun." That Saturday, Marcus told Kendall he wanted to show her something. She met him on Riverside Drive at the exact spot where her car had died 7 months ago. When she pulled up and saw him standing there with Sophia, she started laughing. "This is where, oh my God, Marcus, this is where we met." "I know," Sophia thought it would be romantic. Sophia bounded forward. Miss Kendall, close your eyes. We have a surprise. Sophie, I don't think. Close them. Trust me. Kendall closed her eyes, smiling. Sophia grabbed her hand and led her forward about 10 feet, positioning her carefully. Marcus's heart was hammering so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. Okay, Sophia said. Open them. Kendall opened her eyes. Marcus was kneeling on the side of the road, the exact spot where he'd fixed her battery terminal 7 months ago. The velvet box was open in his hands. Kendall Ross, he said, his voice shaking. 7 months ago, I stopped on this road when I should have kept driving. I helped a stranger because it was the right thing to do, and that one small choice led me here. To you, to us, to a life I never imagined I could have. Tears were streaming down Kendall's face. Sophia was bouncing beside her, barely containing her excitement. You saved my life, Marcus continued. But more than that, you showed me what love looks like. Real love. The kind that fights for justice even when it's hard. The kind that risks everything for what's right. The kind that looks at a little girl drawing superheroes and sees magic. His voice broke. I'm not asking you to marry just me. I'm asking if you'll marry us, me and Sophia. If you'll be part of our family. If you'll let us be part of yours. Say yes. Sophia stage whispered. He's been carrying that ring around for 2 weeks and he's getting really nervous. Kendall laughed through her tears. She dropped to her knees in front of Marcus, not caring about the dirt or her nice pants or the cars driving past. Yes, she said. Yes to both of you, all of you, forever. Sophia shrieked and threw herself at both of them, nearly knocking them over. They ended up in a tangle of arms and tears and laughter on the side of Riverside Drive, right where it all began. Can I tell Mrs. Chen? Sophia asked, pulling back. And Emma and Professor Whiskers? You can tell everyone, Kendall said, slipping the ring on her finger. The whole world. Good, because I already made announcements. I was very confident you'd say yes. Marcus pulled both of them close. How did I get so lucky? You stopped in the rain, Kendall said softly. You helped a stranger. You showed me that goodness still exists. You showed me that justice exists. That fighting for what's right matters. We showed each other. She kissed him, sweet and sure. And we're going to keep showing the world. Sophia made a gagging sound. Okay, enough kissing. We need to go tell people, and also we need to plan a wedding. I have ideas, so many ideas. Mrs. Chen is going to help me. We already talked about it. You already? Sophia, what I was planning ahead, I'm very responsible. As they walked back to their cars, Sophia skipping ahead and shouting about wedding plans into her phone, Kendall took Marcus's hand. You know this isn't going to be easy, she said. People are still going to whisper, still going to question whether what we have is real or just some scandal. Let them whisper. I know what's real. What's that? You, me, Sophia. A choice made in the rain that changed everything. Love that was worth fighting for. Worth risking everything for. He squeezed her hand. That's what's real. Everything else is just noise. Kendall stopped walking and turned to face him. I love you, Marcus Webb. I loved you when I banged that gavel and cleared your name. I loved you when you testified at my hearing and defended me like I was worth saving. And I love you now, standing on this road where it all started, knowing we get to spend the rest of our lives proving that goodness and justice can exist together. I love you too, more than I knew I could love someone. Group hug! Sophia yelled, running back and slamming into both of them. We're a family now, officially, well, almost officially, after the wedding, which is going to be purple. I've decided. Sophia, you can't decide. Too late, I already decided purple with sparkles. Marcus and Kendall looked at each other over Sophia's head and started laughing. Not because everything was perfect, not because their journey had been easy, but because they'd found each other in the rain and the chaos and the broken places. And they'd built something real from one moment of kindness, one act of courage, one choice to stop when everyone else kept driving. Sometimes justice requires breaking the rules. Sometimes love requires risking everything. And sometimes the most miraculous things happen when you simply stop to help a stranger on a rainy night, never knowing that stranger will become your whole world. One broken down car, one impossible choice, and a lifetime of proving that character and courage and kindness can change everything. That's the real magic. Not hammers or gavels or courtroom victories, but people choosing each other, people fighting for each other, people believing in justice and love and second chances. Marcus Webb stopped in the rain. Kendall Ross fought for the truth. Sophia Webb believed in magic. And together, they proved that sometimes miracles are just good people making hard choices. One act of kindness at a time.